We didn't grow up knowing what executive function skills were. Life felt overwhelming. Managing time, staying organized, and feeling stuck made everything difficult. What we didn't realize was that we lacked the skills to plan, prioritize, and break goals into manageable steps. After years of trial and error, we've seen how powerful executive function skills can be. With expert interviews, real stories, and practical strategies, this podcast is the resource we wish we had. Whether you're a student, parent, or professional, we're here to help you unlock your potential. Welcome to the Executive Function for All podcast. Today, we're thrilled to have Shawna Warner return to the show. Shawna is a parent coach specializing in teenage resilience and family dynamics. In this episode, we discuss how to respond when a teen's identity feels shaken by a setback, quick resets for highly sensitive kids, and tips for knowing when to step back versus step up. Shawna has great real-world and practical advice. I'm grateful for her returning, and let's begin. Shawna, thank you so much for coming back.
Yes, I'm happy to be here. I've been looking forward to this. Yeah.
We got a lot of feedback from the last one we did.
Great.
And so we have a bunch of follow-up questions for you because it was so well received.
Awesome. Let's do it.
Yeah. So one of the first questions we received after our episode is we talked about when a teen's identity is wrapped up in something. So when they're the smart one in their high school.
Yes.
And they have to transition to a college where they may not be the smart one anymore.
Right.
Or that athlete, and then they have to take a step up. When you see this and when students get rocked, I know parents can feel that. How do you coach parents to help their students stumble after this label that they've put on themselves gets challenged?
Yeah. Well, it's definitely something that I see all the time in my practice. And I think it's natural because it's natural to gravitate towards labeling yourself in something that you're good at. You know, and oftentimes they get this feedback of like, oh, you're so good at this, or, oh gosh, you're so smart. You're such a good test taker. So I think it's super natural to kind of fall into these labels. But where it gets tricky is where I think when they over-identify with them. And then it's sort of like, okay, if they're over-identifying with it, what are they making it mean? And each kiddo can make it mean something a little bit different. But I think it's important for parents to go, okay, what does this label mean, you know, to my teenager or to my kiddo? And start to kind of dig there. I will say, and maybe this is an extreme example, but I did have a client who years ago was a swimmer. She excelled at a young age. So naturally, they started progressing into next steps. And then it kind of snowballed into, well, is the coach giving her what she needs? Maybe she needs a new team. Oh, now she needs a private coach. Oh, now we need to do this. And they started putting all of these things in place to build this little athlete naturally. But for her teammates started noticing kind of a different, oh, you're leaving the team. Oh, we're not good enough for you sort of sense. She wasn't saying it, but she was talking about what was going on. And it really just got to the point where she was so, I'm going to say terrified, so afraid of letting everyone down that she just stopped performing. So it's like you get into that energy of the label. And if you don't know how to navigate it, if you don't have the tools to navigate it, it can really kind of be counterproductive. And sometimes I also think about it, and this is how I talk to parents about it, is like, it's kind of like driving with like 3 flat tires. You know, you're really only looking, like you can roll down the road. You can get there. It's going to be a little bumpy, but you have to maintain the whole vehicle, right? You have to maintain all 4 tires, so to speak, in order to get the best performance of your car. And I think it's the same with your teenager.
Yeah, so a couple different ways to, I guess, a couple different questions about this. So what happens if a parent is starting to see this label creep up and become more and more of take more of a role in their child's life, but nothing's wrong yet? So let's say it's a middle school athlete, just to keep the same analogy. It's a middle school athlete and the label comes up more and more, but it hasn't had a negative effect yet. Is that something to take concern over?
I don't know that I would be concerned about it necessarily. I think that is a really good time and opportunity to really get to know what this label is starting to mean to the kid, to the parents, to the family, to the team. And it's if there's no tension or concern yet, like let's just kind of explore, let it be exploratory so that they can begin to connect with who they really are, clarify who they want to be, and then create the experience that they want to have. And that really comes down to a practice that I call developing your sense of self, really getting to know who you are, what you want, why you want it, and what part of you is really driving that. Is it your performing kind of perfectionistic part of your personality? Or is it like your true soulful self? Like you really just love it. Like it lights you up. Like you are like doing it because you love it and it's fun.
Yeah. How do you recommend parents get to that? Just because you and I talk to a lot of middle schoolers, and I don't know developmentally if they're self-aware enough to know, is it perfectionism or is it a deeper purpose, a deeper calling? Do you have recommended ways to talk about this?
Yeah. So I think it opens a door for them to learn and develop that sense of self. I don't think they have it yet. And they're so externally referenced. They're always looking at what's around them, comparing. And so finding a way to say, hey, what is your why? What is behind you getting up and going to practice at 6:00 in the morning? Or you getting all your homework done at lunch so that you can go to practice after school? Like, why is this important to you? And just kind of starting to ask questions so that they can start to develop answers. And they might say, I don't know. And I think I don't know is a legitimate answer, though that also then opens the door to going, okay, let's get to know that a little bit better. Let's get to know the performing personality. And I have another client that maybe this example will help clarify that is she had a coach say to her, you'll never swim at a higher level. And that hit home pretty hard because she'd been doing all the work. And so I was like, okay, so what matters most in this situation? And she was like, well, to show coach that I can do it. I'm like, okay, good. What else? Well, because I want to score for my team. And then we're like, okay, what else? Which is also a really good question for parents to ask. Because there's no opinion, there's no feedback. It's just you just kind of keep opening one door after the other. And then she got to, well, I just want to see what I'm made of. I want to see if I can do it. Like I believe I can and I want to. But it was like she didn't have that sense of self at the time. But you got to kind of cut out the external environment and go, okay, what matters most? Yeah, you want to show coach. Got it. That's kind of the performing personality piece. And, helping the team get points is also kind of perfectionistic performing, but also kind of in the team spirit. But really going, okay, what am I capable of? And you kind of have to just go down that road to get there.
Yeah, I like that. Well, because we call it metacognition in the executive function world, right? It's the people who have a deep understanding and awareness of themselves.
Thinking about your thinking.
Whether it's how you learn, whether it's what time of day you function best. It's just the people who understand themselves are the ones who typically thrive.
Absolutely.
And so I like that a lot around this label. Let me take the opposite approach, because this is something I see all the time. For whatever reason, it feels like it's usually an engineering student. I'm not sure why. But a student goes off to college and they've always been the smart one. And then they step foot on campus, usually their first or second year, and they're not that anymore. So that identity gets challenged. And we start to see them melt down a little bit. What advice would you give for parents around looking at the label once the label's set and now it's being challenged?
Yeah, it's a tough one because if they've kind of pulled their whole identity into I'm this, right? They're really kind of throwing all of their other gifts under the bus. So for parents, I would say, where can we gather evidence in other areas of their life? Because they do tend to get hyper-focused on what they tend to be good at, and it's important to them. But then they go off to college and they see all these other people. It's like the world really opens up. So going, okay, teens tend to love gathering evidence. So I would encourage parents to be like, well, where else did they thrive? Where else did they overcome sort of an obstacle? Where else did they struggle and then pick themselves back up and keep going. Because a lot of that sounds like it was probably just sort of pushed aside and not really brought into the forefront. And so really starting to ask their kiddo, do you remember do you remember this scenario? What do you remember about that? And it is that metacognition piece of the thinking about their thinking, because we always have a narrative going on that we want to get these kiddos to start using their minds in the way that they're designed. And that is, how can I move forward? Where do I thrive? What are my gifts? And then what am I struggling with? And what are my resources to pick myself back up? So I would say open-ended questions are always such a good thing, but parents tend to be pretty good at looking at the big picture, where teens tend to, have a more narrow lens. And so reflecting back on, remember, hey, what was that moment? And you can play a little bit naive, or, I'm remembering that situation where, X, Y, and Z really challenged you, or you were left out of this social situation. They all went camping and left you behind. Like, what, you've gotten this far. What did you do to handle that? To try to bring all of that up to the surface for them to see.
Yeah, I think that's really good. The other thing we see a lot is especially with the smart one, this is just from an executive function side, is they don't have the systems that they need to. So they've relied on intelligence for so long. And so drawing upon the resilience, like what you said, but also making sure they have like systems, because that's often where we're lacking as well.
And so when you talk about systems, what are you referring to?
Usually it's organizational systems.
Oh, yeah.
Usually it's lacking key skills like they've been trying to keep everything in their head because they've been quote unquote smart, and they don't have calendar or reminders pop up on an app. Or a different skill we see often is they don't have the ability to advocate to a professor. So there's a problem, but they don't have the skills to attack that problem.
Right.
And so it's drawing upon the resilience, but just trying to figure out where we're lacking in skills. And these are just skills like any other skills. They can be built. But sometimes we confuse skills with intelligence.
Absolutely. And I think sometimes with these young folks, they are so scheduled. So I've seen kids thrive in high school, especially like the smart ones and the athletes, and they're so scheduled and so regimented. And then they get to college and it's not done for them. So they haven't developed those executive function skills or planning skills. They don't know what to do with their time. And so then the mind starts to wander. They start to get into a variety of things. And they also, I think, if they've really peaked in high school and they go off to college, and again, it's a bigger world, more talent, other people, if they haven't established that sense of self and those systems, it's so easy to just get lost.
Yeah. Switching topics to another question we received. I know you specialize in highly sensitive teenagers.
I do.
Yes. A question we received is, with these highly sensitive teenagers, what are quick resets that parents can do with them before they have to transition to something after school? So that's something could be a homework assignment. It could be practice. It just could be transitioning to family time. How do you help these kids reset?
Yeah, so it's funny when I think about a sensitive teen or a highly sensitive person and a quick reset, they're just sort of like opposite ends of the stick. It's not always easy for a sensitive teen to do a quick reset. I mean, some teens, I think, can just sort of flip a switch and go. I've seen that happen. But oftentimes, if you're highly sensitive and if you can think of it as like they do everything they can to keep it together during the day. And it's like they either come home with this super heavy emotional backpack, or, sometimes I use the analogy of like they're like pulling this heavy wagon, all day long, full of all the things that they've collected emotionally that they haven't worked through because they're just trying to get through the day. So then they get home and it's like, okay, you have 5 minutes to get out the door. Let's do a quick reset. They're exhausted. Like they are just emotionally not capable of doing that quick reset. And then sometimes it comes off as like they're being difficult or moody or angsty or whatever. So for parents, I would say, well, a lot of high school athletes or kiddos will have like their event right after school. So there's not a lot of time to necessarily put down the backpack. They just keep going. They move from the academics to the hobby athletic event, whatever it is. For the younger ones who come home and maybe have some time, I would say a preparedness plan would really probably help. Something that they can anticipate and then also participate in so that they can exercise some agency. And okay, now I can anticipate what my day is going to look like when I get home. I need 3 minutes to whatever. I need 5 minutes to have a snack. I always say, make sure you think about the basics, and that's just like feeding and watering yourself always. But have them give some input on, okay, what do I need after school so that I can make that transition?
Besides getting a snack and just getting a little quiet time, has there been any other practices you've seen work for a lot of students?
Yeah, so I had a family one time who they had a set environment, like at the table where it was preset, where she would come home, sit in that spot. She got her screen time, her snack, and she knew that when she got home, that's where she went. She went and did that. I had another client who it did have to be a pretty quick turnaround. So she made a playlist. So she'd get in the car, she'd eat her snack in the car, and they would listen to that playlist. And so it was really trying to get her into a certain state of mind, so she didn't replay the whole day's happenings, and she could just really focus on being in the present moment, in the here and now, so that she could show up the way she wants to. I also talk to my clients about something I call the entrance strategy. And the middle school ones get it. The high school ones definitely do. They get more into detail with it. But what I say is think about ahead of time how you want to show up for your volleyball practice. What person do you want to be when you step onto the court? And if something comes up, how do you want to handle it? And to really kind of think about it ahead of time. It's like athletes do a lot of visualization work, and this is just a quick blip of a visualization work, but it can help prepare them for what's next.
Yeah, I really like the predictability you spoke to. I think that does a lot for anxiety, whether it's the playlist or having everything laid out when you get home. So much anxiety we see comes up from just not knowing. And you've had that all day.
Yes.
And so just to have that predictable environment, that routine when you come home, I'm sure that decreases a lot of anxiety.
Yeah, it is. A lot of it is just anticipatory anxiety, And so yes, having something somewhat predictable, they can decide their snack ahead of time, they can do their playlist ahead of time, and they can visualize themselves ahead of time how I want to show up.
Yeah. That predictability, it seems so boring to some people, and it is so comforting. Especially, I can imagine if you're highly sensitive and you're getting all this input all day, to have that come home. I imagine that's not boring at all. It's very comforting.
Yeah, and I think it also helps them recognize and practice agency over how much, I don't love the word control, but that's one that came to me right now. It's like how much control they actually can have over their mind. It doesn't have to be just let the subconscious run wild. You can step in and kind of get in the driver's seat and go, okay, this is what I'm going to focus on. This is what I'm going to think about. And this is how I'm going to do it.
Yeah. When you were here last time, we talked a lot about not having parents jump in and fix it. It's kind of our core nature. I speak to this stuff. I talk to people like you, and I still want to jump in all the time. I have to catch myself, right?
Right.
And so, because it's hard to see our kids struggle. When we say jump in and don't fix it, I think it's a little messy because we don't know where that line is, where they actually need help and when we're fixing it. How do you think about that line?
As a parent, I think it's really tricky because it's so counterintuitive to not want to step in and help. Like it's just like our nature, to want to do it. So if we clear the path and clear the way, they don't learn how to do it themselves. They don't learn how to think for themselves because we're just doing it for them. And so I love how you asked, are there some guidelines? Because I do think that it's helpful to have some guidelines when it comes to uncertainty. Do they need it? Do they not need it? When do I step in? When do I step back? And that uncertainty can really snowball into a lot of anxiety and stress as parents. And so what I've kind of codified is 4 key areas to look at your teenager. And that is their sense of self. I talk about that a lot. How they see themselves, how they talk to and about themselves, their social scenarios, which is, fairly obvious, their educational experience, and like their family connections. So looking at those 4 areas and going, okay, how are they doing in those 4 areas? If they're like socially having an issue, a fight with the bestie, or they're reporting that somebody's, trying to cheat off of them, or if there's just a social scenario that seems more situational that they're talking about, then I would say maybe check in or tune in, but don't necessarily step in. Just kind of be on the periphery, keep an eye on it. If it continues to come up and or bleed into the other areas, like if it's then starting to affect how they come home, how they, start seeing themselves, or how they focus at school, if they can't focus. So if it starts bleeding into those other areas, then it's definitely time to step in. There's also a free tool on my website that it's primarily designed for teenage girls to see like where they're thriving and where they're struggling, but it breaks down those 4 areas and asks some real specific questions so that you can go, okay, do I think I need some extra support here? Or is this something that she's going to just experience and hopefully develop some new resiliency tools and move through?
Yeah, that's a great way to outline it. And we'll put your website in the show notes just so everyone has it, because that's such a hard line. So I'm glad you've done a lot of work around that one.
Yeah, it is. It's not always clear, but use your resources, right? There are a lot of, if you don't want to do my free website resource, there are a lot of other resources. Check in with the teacher, check in with the counselor at school, check in with the coach, check in with whoever is running whatever extracurricular activities they're doing, and just sort of check those 4 areas and see if is it situational or is this continuous?
Yeah. Final question we received. I love this question because it's got a lead domino tint to it. So one of our instincts is, when a lot is going wrong, to throw in a bunch of routines. And when we try to do a lot, very little happens. The lead domino is the concept of, if you were to implement one routine, what would have the biggest bang for your buck? And so, just based on your work, what lead dominoes have you seen recently? And just so one change a family makes that has just an outsized impact.
I love this question because families are unique. So like one size doesn't necessarily fit all. Some families may be able to handle a whole bunch of change all at once. I know mine never really operated that way, but our family is usually like where we start to define ourselves and how we learn to operate in the world. So to me, this question is huge. And I think, getting that first domino set up is so important. And I was actually talking to my daughter about this because I felt like I could have answered this in so many different ways. But what really kind of came to mind was, in the real estate world, it's like location, location, location. I think in the family world, it's environment, environment, environment. And so going, how can we structure an environment? I call it the nest. What's one thing that we can do in our environment or our nest so that everyone can feel seen, heard, and supported? And the one thing that comes to mind is, how can each person learn how to be their own like steady presence? How can each person learn what they need to be in that nest when things in life happen? Because things in life are going to happen. And so I call it like your sanity saver. What is your particular sanity saver? And then what is your reset tool? And having each person develop a habit around establishing that. And of course, it's going to kind of grow and change as they get older and grow up. But it's like, if each person can go, okay, what is my sanity saver and what is my reset tool? Then it's like you can focus more on the self and less on, like, if my brother or sister would just act differently, my life would be so much easier. Or if my parents would just do X, Y, and Z, I would be so much less stressed and so much happier. So it's like, instead of focusing on outside of yourself, you really start to recognize, okay, here it's building up. I can feel it. It's bubbling up, whatever it is. What is it that makes me feel sane? And how do I reset? How do I do it?
I love the term sanity saver because I can think about so many lead dominoes we've helped families implement. It's like having a bowl next to the door, putting your keys there.
Yeah.
We'll talk about a sanity saver when you're not searching for your keys every morning, right? Or, there's so many things that fall into that bucket. So I really like that one.
Yeah.
Two big general ones we've seen a lot recently are sleep. Sleep seems to be just huge right now. And screens.
Yeah.
And I really like what you said about being seen, because I think that's the core of it. And I didn't put those together before, but people get really upset about screens because others aren't feeling seen in the house.
Yeah. And I guess there's also kind of the caveat of screens. And I feel like I can sort of hear past conversations going through my mind of like, well, they said my kiddo came home and said, well, my sanity saver is I want a half hour on TikTok. And it's like, okay, that's information. Even though parents don't necessarily approve of that or want that to be okay, I was like, instead of getting into it and being like, no way, let's open the door and go, well, what is it about TikTok that helps you feel good about yourself? It's your sanity saver. So what is it that you're watching on TikTok that actually helps you feel good about yourself? That's interesting. And then can you share maybe 2 or 3 videos that really show us, gathering evidence here, that this really makes you feel good about yourself? And well, sometimes it's sort of leading the witness. It also helps these kiddos see, oh, okay, maybe a half hour on TikTok is what I think I should be doing as my sanity saver because so-and-so's doing it or the whole world's doing it, but no, I watch TikTok, and then I don't feel good about myself. So then I'm looking for something else to feel better. So it's like, it really goes back to that metacognition, understanding what they need and developing that awareness around it. So it's not the parents taking the screen or always having to set these hard limits. It's them going, oh yeah, okay, I did that and I don't feel very good. That's not my sanity saver.
Yeah, and going back to just getting as curious as we can.
Yes.
Have there been any other, because I love hearing about lead dominoes. I talk to teachers about it all the time, and there's always all these wild examples of lead dominoes that just have this outsized impact. Have there been any other lead dominoes or routines you've seen families implement that have just given a ton of positivity?
I have heard from clients that if they set up a family meeting, and it doesn't have to be formal, but like the lead domino is every Sunday, 5:00, we're all here. And then they establish what they want each member to bring to the family meeting. And it can just be a 10, 15 minute kind of check-in. Let's look at the week ahead. It can be, I'm struggling with this, if that's what they want, and getting feedback from siblings, parents. It can be also, like you referenced earlier, is just setting up the processes for the week so that everybody knows what to anticipate. Of course, there's always going to be stuff that comes up, but for this bigger stuff, they can anticipate, okay, this is the schedule. And I mean, there's a lot of digital tools now that have, family schedules on them and the kids can see and they all share. So that's been one lead domino is really just coming together, I think, as a team to look at the whole picture. It's kind of cliche, but like families that play together, stay together. When families go, oh, okay, we are feeling a sense of disconnection here. And it's all just, we just keep addressing the not fun stuff, the routine, the rules. Doing something fun helps just offset that. And it doesn't have to be a trip to Hawaii. It can just be something little, something fun. Go get ice cream, play a game, walk the dog. It's just something to kind of counterbalance the other things.
Yeah, and scheduling that in. I think that's the thing that you and I see all the time where when people schedule it in, it is just so much more likely to happen.
Right. And when you schedule it in, you show up. it's like showing up for school or showing up for practice. Whether or not you recognize it, you're mentally preparing yourself to show up in this space, in this time, dedicated and committed to this moment.
Yeah. So one last thing, domino, I thought of that. I see a lot, which again has an outsized impact, is everyone packing their stuff and putting it by the door the night before.
Yes.
And so they're not screaming at each other's throats, and there's not, one hockey skate in the bag, or they don't have their gear for the musical or whatever. Calming down the mornings starts the night before. I see that just have an outsized impact.
100%. And I talk to my clients about that too. The night before determines what the morning looks like. And I don't think you outgrow that, because I just shared with you that before we came on, that my daughter had surgery. And so I was helping her the night before pack her lunch, get her backpack ready for her work day the next day. I mean, she's stumbling around on crutches, so we did it together. But yeah, getting it all set up, making food ahead of time, getting it all set up so that if there's a blip in the morning, it's not as big of a blip. Everything kind of goes smoothly. And I've definitely done that well, and I've definitely done that not well when my kids were younger too.
Shawna, this is so helpful for me, and thank you so much for being here as always. And if people want to learn more about you and your work and get some tools, where can they do that?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I mean, I think we share the same passion, and then also just being here and seeing the environment that you've set up for these kiddos speaks volumes to you getting the environment, setting up a place where they feel comfortable and safe, seen and heard, so that they can learn. Yeah, so love being here. They can find me on my website, cultivatingresilientteens.com, or maybe just Googling my name, Shawna Warner, and it's Arner.
And then what's the name of your podcast?
Oh, you're right. So Cultivating Resilient Teens.
Same thing. Just Google Cultivating.
Just Google Cultivating Resilient Teens, and I'm on all the platforms. So awesome. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on the Executive Function for All podcast. If today's episode brought you any value, please rate us 5 stars and share it with someone who may benefit. And remember, every small step you take builds towards your success. For resources and guidance, visit untappedlearning.com. Keep growing, keep learning, and we'll see you next time.